Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Itiko bhikkave tathagato datta dattabbang ditthang na manyati. Adittang na manyati dattabbang na manyati. Dattarang na manyati iti. Dear Venerable Sister, Venerable Brother, Dhamma friends, actually recent months we have taken a very interesting sutta but little difficult one. That's called Kalakarama Sutta. It's a very popular one among Sri Lankans. Probably you have heard about certain historic incidents happens around the Kalakarama Sutta. During King Saddhatissa, there is one venerable called Kala Buddha Rakkita who has delivered Dhamma sermon throughout the whole night during this using this Kalakarama Sutta, and it is mentioned it is done in a kind of a dark moon day. There is no moon at all. And and again it is heard that the king also participated in the audience, and without notice he arrived and he listened to the whole sermon throughout the night. And likewise it's a interesting historical event has happened around Kalakarama Sutta. And apart from that, probably you have heard that during the King Asoka that he has sent some missionaries, so the several monks to various countries. To Sri Lanka, as you all know, Venerable Mahinda came, and then to other countries different monks have visited, and to Greece during that time it's called Yonaka. So that Venerable called Maharakkita was sent. And can you remember what is the sermon or the particular sutta that Venerable Mahinda delivered in Sri Lanka? Sorry? Chullahatti Padopama Sutta. Now, when Venerable Maharakkita went to Yonaka, so to that audience, he has taken the Sutta of Kalakarama Sutta as the theme of the Dhamma sermon. And during those times also, those Greeks were fairly philosophical and to their mind. So this Sutta was quite appealing, and therefore it was quite significant that he has used Kalakarama Sutta as the theme of his way of delivering Dhamma. So, if I just give the kind of a brief introduction to this sutta, it occurred while Buddha was dwelling in a particular place called, give me a second, Saketa. Saketa was the area where Buddha has delivered the sermon, and he approached that particular place where one of his devotees, that you know that Anathapindika's daughter, her name is called Chula Subhadra, and after marriage she went that particular area to reside. And it go through certain different incidents, and her her uncle actually was someone who has gone under the practice of naked ascetics, and he has invited some of them for the dana, for alms. And once Chula Subhadra has seen that, so she was become really embarrassed, and she made a bad comment about them. And then this particular guy called Kala was quite upset about it, and he has given a challenge to this Chula Subhadra. Okay, if your Aryans, your nobles are someone different, okay, just invite them tomorrow to the alms, to my house, immediately. Anyhow, Chula Subhadra was a non-disciple of the Buddha, and she herself is a Sotapanna, a stream winner, and somehow she was able to send the message to the Buddha, and Buddha came, not alone, even with some arahants. And there Buddha has delivered Dhamma, and this particular person called Kala, so he himself has attained Sotapanna, and then he prepared a particular area and he prepared a kind of a monastery, and that is why it is called Kalakarama. The kind of the arama, kind of the temple built by this particular merchant called Kala, so it has become Kalakarama. So many people started following the Buddha and the teachings, and now even some people from that area come forward and they want to follow the Buddha's teaching, and they have become monks. And now many monks are there in the Kalakarama, in this particular place, and they were talking about what has happened really recently, that nobody were following the Buddha's teaching except this Chula Subhadra, and now she invited Buddha and the Sangha for alms, and they came here, and then Buddha preached the Dhamma, and many started following, and even the Kala, who was a disciple of these naked ascetics, he also has converted, and now he is a faithful devotee of the Buddha, and see the change which has happened. So this is the kind of the talk which was discussed by the monks who gathered the assembly hall of Kalakarama Sutta, of Kalakarama area, this temple at one time. On that occasion, Buddha approached that particular assembly hall, and he inquired, okay monks, what were you discussing when I was arriving? And then they were mentioning, okay Bhante, we discussed about what has really happened recently in this area. So actually we were discussing about the sublime qualities of the Buddha, how fortunate these people, and how a kind of a sudden change has happened in this area. So we ourselves started practicing under you. So this is the kind of the thing that we were discussing. And Buddha understood, okay, now the monks are quite uplifted, they are quite devoted and fairly faithful. I better teach the Dhamma fairly further to enhance their faith as well as giving a deeper understanding of the Dhamma. Accordingly, he has delivered this Kalakarama Sutta, and it's a very short sutta, by the way. Short but very deep. So one interesting aspect of the Buddha's teaching is also like that. Sometimes very long suttas are there, they are quite descriptive. But there are certain very short suttas, not that long, but extremely, even sometimes difficult to understand, and the meaning also very, very profound. Very difficult to understand, but again very, very profound as we are going through them. Particularly, certain suttas in the Sutta Nipata, Parayana Vagga, Attaka Vagga. So those are all verses, actually very short, very concise, but very, very deep, very profound. Kalakarama Sutta actually comes in the Anguttara Nikaya, numerical discourses of the Buddha, and according to the commentarial analysis, so it is divided into 5 categories, we would say. So one area is talking about the Buddha's Sarvajñata Jnana, what we call as the omniscience of the Buddha. And the second area, in very brief, don't expect a very comprehensive explanation, just within 2-3 sentences, by the way. Talking about the Shinashrava Bhumi, where that the Buddha being an Arahant and completely free from all the defilements, all the asavas, all the influxes. So very briefly explaining about that aspect of the Buddha, that his mind is completely free from the influxes. Third section is called about the Satcha. So whatever the words that Buddha has preached, so his Dhamma is mere truth. So giving a fairly logical analysis, in a way kind of an argument, how he is confirming his teaching, abandoning various other misconceptions and affirming his teaching. So that is the Satcha Bhumi, thirdly explained in this sutta. Then the fourth one is called Sunyata Bhumi, where Buddha is very profoundly explaining about the emptiness. And then the fifth one is called Tadi Bhumi, where he's talking about something called suchness. So we can say a kind of a capacity of an arahant to be completely maintaining an unwavering mind amidst vicissitudes of the life. So far we have discussed the first three, Sarvakta Bhumi, Shinashra Bhumi and Satcha Bhumi. So if you like, you can go to the recordings and you can listen to them. And now last month we started the Sunyata Bhumi, talking about the emptiness. So this is the very interesting sutta where I found that Sunyata, the emptiness, was described in 4 different stages. The term Sunyata is a very interesting term. Actually, probably you are familiar with Anicca Dukkha Anatta, the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness and the non-self. So the Sunyata is one aspect of non-self, Anatta. So certain different aspects of Anicca is also there. Now, probably you have heard about a very popular book by Most Venerable Rerukane Chandavimala Thero called Maha Chattali Sakara Vipassana Bhavana, the 40 types of Vipassana meditation. So there he has given a fair analysis on to these 40 Vipassana subjects. And among those 40, 10 is coming under the section of Anicca, the impermanence, talking about the aspect of impermanence. And then there are 25 aspects of the dukkha, about the unsatisfactoriness. And there are 5 aspects of anatta. So there are 5 aspects of anatta. Now, one such aspect of anatta is called sunyata, the emptiness. And one occasion, Venerable Ananda actually inquired, Bante, this it is mentioned, Sunyo loko ti Bante vucchati, Kittavatanuko Bante Sunyo loko ti vucchati. Bante, it is mentioned that this world is empty, world is empty. Why is it said that the world is empty? And then Buddha mentioned, so kind of a very interesting definition is given, Sunyamidang attenava attaniyenava. So it is empty of a self and what belongs to a self. So if you analyze the early Buddhist teaching, so this is the very short definition given for emptiness. Sunyamidang attenava attaniyenava. It is empty of a self and what belongs to a self. So one can explain that in many different ways. Where, say, you take, for example, the form aggregate, rupa khandha, and you can say, okay, it is empty of self and what belongs to a self. And you can consider the feeling aggregate, and then you can say, okay, it is empty of a self and what belongs to a self. So, for example, if you are, whenever you are experiencing a pleasurable feeling, to whom it belongs to? Pleasurable feeling? To whom it belongs to? To you? Who is the owner of the pleasurable feeling? This is the answer. Answer is here. It doesn't belong to anyone, doesn't it? So the feeling doesn't have an owner in that sense. So if there is an owner, then it is coming under the self. So now even though the theoretical explanation appear like little dry and philosophical, but it's very, very practical. Now say we are telling about the form. Okay, this is the body. To whom the body belongs to? To me, right? So this is how we typically understand, right? So we identify ourselves as individuals, and to our body we give a name, and so we appear like male, female, young, old, etc. So depending on the body, there is a huge identification. So we identify as myself based on the body, the form aggregate. So that is one heavy type of Sakkaya Ditthi, we would say. Strong Sakkaya Ditthi is there, where we take this whole body as one unit, as one compact unit, and we attribute it to a person. We attribute it to an individual, and that is me, that is myself. So there are very interesting analysis that Buddha has done with respect to each aggregate actually. So one would say, okay, this form immediately is myself, a direct identification as a self. Or one would say the self is a large content, and inside that large self, the body is part of it. Another aspect is, one would say, okay, inside the body there is self. The Atma is inside the body. Or someone would say, the self belongs to the body. So likewise, there are 4 aspects typically mentioned to each and every aggregate. So altogether, it is mentioned there are 20 aspects to Sakkaya Ditthi. Now everywhere the self view is emphasized, where we identify the form as a self, as an Atma, as an eternal, ongoing, existing self. But this, the teaching of the Sunyata directly breaks that. Buddha categorically mentioned, Sunyamidang attenava attaniyenava. It is empty of a self, and it is empty of what belongs to a self. So you can't say therefore the body is self, and again you can't say it belongs to another large self. Body is either component of that self or body belongs to that self. You can't say, because Buddha say Sunyamidang attenava attaniyenava. So it's a very deep teaching actually, and in this Kalakarama Sutta, Buddha gave a further interesting explanation into this emptiness. So we started that on last month. So let me briefly explain it, because otherwise it's difficult to continue. Now, there are certain suttas that Buddha mentioned, say for example, Bahya Sutta, for example. I mean, I have to take certain other suttas. These teachings are fairly deep and profound, and please bear with me if the newcomers are completely new to these things and you have to refer the past lessons. So there are certain suttas where Buddha mentioned, okay, Bahya, just seen, in the seen, just merely seen. In the heard, only mere heard. So likewise, a very interesting teaching was delivered to Bahya, and there Buddha's message to Bahya is to maintain some sort of a restrainment. So whenever you see some form, don't proliferate. Don't think there is an individual there. Don't think there is something there. And don't identify using that. And if you are able to practice like that, then you are not making any individual out of what you see, so that you are not there, also you are not here, and you are not in between. So this is the end of suffering. So, very concise type of teaching. And same thing he delivered to the what you heard, and through the nose, tongue and the body what you have sensed, and again through the mind what you have cognized. So after hearing this teaching, what happened to Bahya? He became an Arahant. You can see the depth of the teaching. So it's so deep, and you have to have a fairly deep, in a kind of a very deep understanding also to really grasp the teaching. Otherwise one can give various different kinds of explanation to what Buddha wants to deliver, and you keep on arguing, and never go to any kind of realization. But Venerable Bhaya was so sharp, he's coming from the eons of practice. Probably you have heard about his story, right? During the Buddha Kassapa, he dedicated himself fully to the practice, and he has even given up his life for the sake of practice. He is such a person. And for such a person, this kind of a very short, precise, concise teaching strike. And he understood it, and at that moment he attained Arhatut. And in this Buddha Sasana, Buddha's dispensation, Venerable Bhaya is the foremost monk who achieved such kind of a very quick enlightenment, right? Nobody. He is the one who attained this kind of a very quick enlightenment by a short teaching. No one else. Now there are others also that to whom that Buddha has given the same teaching. For example, one called Malunke-Buddha. To him also, Venerable Malunke-Buddha, to him also Buddha delivered the same teaching, but he took fairly long time to attain arahantship. So you can see it's depend on the individual, same teaching, but depends on the individual. So we are developing certain kind of a capacity in ourselves, and as we develop these capacities, as we develop these skills, and then slowly we are accumulating kind of a potential to understand the Buddha's teaching. And once the faculties are ripened, then the understanding, the realization can happen. Now, in this Kalakarama Sutta, Buddha deeply analyzed this emptiness in many different ways. Just to take one example, Dattha dattabbang dittang na manyati. Now, I have to tell you a little bit about manyati also, the term manyati, what we call as the conceiving. We can translate it as conceiving. Now, just to explain that also, I have to give a little bit of background. Now, once we born as a child, okay, our parents introduce us to the father, mother, sister, brother, grandma, grandpa. So all are individuals, right? So all are individuals. Okay, son, this is your mother. Son, this is your father. This is your grandma. Okay, this is your doll. This is your bed. There are individuals and there are objects. And as we are further growing and we were given a name, and now mother, father and friends are addressing using the name, and then we go to the college and now people are further emphasizing, okay, you are an individual, and we ourselves are also individuals, and later we are being taught various subjects, and all the conventional stuff are now slowly inserted to our mind, affirming that there is a person here, affirming that there is a self here. And then we are given a unique number to participate ordinary level exam. We are given a identification number, right? National identity card. So inside the country now you have a unique identification number, and we think, okay, we are an individual, a very unique person, and this unique person further wants to become a VIP. So we are learning education and all many different things, and so that using which we can highlight ourselves further as an individual. I can compete with others, and we can highlight myself, and using various skills, and we are quite keen on sort of emphasizing my presence. I am so and so. Right? So this is what has happened to us. So the whole society, whole others are trying to promote us as an individual, and they also are individuals, and all other things have given a unique name, a label. So this is the world now we are introduced. Hope you all agree with me, right? So this is the kind of the context that how we approach the world, well explained in the Mulapariyaya Sutta, in Majjhima Nikaya, the very first Sutta of Mulapariyaya, in the Majjhima Nikaya. So now assume that as you go closer to your vehicle, you can simply say, oh, okay, this is my car. Very simple, right? This is my car. So that's a model that how we are thinking. So there is an individual here, that is I, and all the outside, there are individuals, they are others. Here me, and they are outsiders. And here me, and there are outside objects. So we have kind of this subject-object duality. So based on that subject-object duality, we prepared a kind of a grammar, a kind of a language. This is how we are communicating. We are using this grammatical model to communicate. Hope you all understand that. So that is what we developed, that is how we understood and we learned, and we all accept that. That has a purpose. So there is no argument. It has a purpose. Because as we are continuing our life, as we are living in this society, we need to communicate, we need to tell what we feel, what we recognize. And so we need a language to properly communicate without any ambiguity. So we need very precise terms, terminologies, grammar, rules, etc., etc. Now, unfortunately, what has happened, so that individuality imposed upon us has become very, very solid, fairly permanent, and we identify that daily. Daily, your individuality is further confirmed as a result of this social association and by the friends and all the others and this societal influence. So this individuality is highly confirmed, like concrete. So that is why it is called Sakkaya Ditthi, where we are quite sure in this body there is a person. Very sure about it. If someone says, no, there is no person there, then you might think, oh, he is going crazy, right? And similarly, when someone is arguing, okay, the feelings and everything, you are the one feeling them, right? So when someone is saying, okay, I have a headache, to whom the headache belongs to? To me. That means each and every painful feeling belongs to me. Each and every pleasurable feeling belongs to me. Each and every equanimous feeling belongs to me. So that is the kind of an understanding we all are having. And the thoughts coming to the mind, to whom are they belong to? To me. So this is the model. This is the typical model that we all are working on, right? This is what we are introduced. And we think, okay, all the thoughts are me, myself, and belong to me. I am responsible for each and every thought. This is what we think. What if you ignore the thoughts? Anyone coming and punishing you? Now say, when you are trying to pay attention to Anapanasati, in-breath and out-breath, during that time, how many thoughts have come? Say, 1,000 thoughts have come, but at that time you ignore them, right? So you want to pay attention to breath, so you ignore the thoughts. Is it a crime to ignore thoughts? That's also not, right? I mean, so we are kind of going in a different direction now. So now slowly we are kind of disclaiming the thoughts. Okay, thoughts are not me. Thoughts doesn't belong to me. It's a kind of a radical approach, because so far we were thinking all thoughts belong to me. I am responsible for each and every thought. Whenever say criminal thoughts come to me, how dare it come to my mind? So what a mean person I am. So we are accusing ourselves. But during the practice, there are many different kinds of thoughts are coming, but we simply ignore them. We are trying to pay attention to the breath. Hope you all agree. So slowly in a way, we are very much like changing our old traditional model. So, traditionally we were thinking, okay, all thoughts, all intentions, whatever the intentional activities, all belong to me, I am responsible. It also has certain meaning now. If I am intentionally kill someone, so that is an impact. Definitely yes. I am not trying to abandon it. So definitely yes. If I am intentionally done something, intentionally tell something, definitely it has certain kammic influence. So that is how Buddha defined the kamma, right? Chetanaham bhikkhave kammang vadami. But slowly, still there is a capacity in us to kind of disclaim this thinking, and even intentionally we can divert our attention to something different. And no one will prohibit it. So Buddha has mentioned, okay guys, you can do it. So while thoughts are going on in the mind, so you can still pay attention to the breath. At that time, in a way, we are not giving any prominence to thinking. Slowly we are emphasizing the awareness. We can say the body awareness. So no problem in that. So as you are continuing, there may be instances that the mind doesn't even have a single thought. Right? Some of you have already experienced that. So the mind has the capacity to live without thoughts. Right? So you are not dead. You are still alive. You are fully aware, but no thoughts. So likewise now we are radically changing our old way of thinking, how we were accepted, how we were taught. Now we are radically changing that old habit. Now in this Kalakarama Sutta, Buddha adds further to this same kind of a radical evolution happening in us. Now he says, whenever you see something, I'll take this as an example. Okay? So now in the common conventional way, what is this? We would say a clock, right? Alarm clock. Now the typical typical recognition is, I am here, alarm clock is here. Alarm clock is there. So this is the typical general way of telling it. I am here, alarm clock is there. So this is the typical mundane way of expressing it. Now assume that you are more into deep Vipassana meditation, and at one occasion you are able to realize, so this body is nothing but 4 elements. So you are deeply into elements meditation and you are looking at the body from different angles. While walking also you are able to experience various element characteristics. While sitting also you are able to recognize various element characteristics. While standing also you recognize the element characteristics. While lying down also you are recognizing element characteristics. In each and every posture you recognize element characteristics. And there is an understanding now growing in your mind. Other than element characteristics, operation of elements, what else is there? What else? In this body? Other than the 4 elements, what else? Nothing. So, is that kind of controversial? Now, previously we were thinking, okay, there is me, very important person is here, right? There is an individual, big I is there. That's why we say capital I, big I is there. But now, the practice, Vipassana practice, is kind of questioning your old, habitual, accepted knowing. Is there a I here? Because each and every posture, you are again and again recognizing the manifestation of various elements. While walking, while standing, while sitting, while lying down, while turning, and all different postures, you are able to recognize the manifestation of elements. And you can admit, okay, other than elements, I can't see any person here, any individual here, any self here. So what is happening here? Just the manifestation of elements. So this is a kind of a radical attack to our Sakkaya Ditthi. Because we were thinking that there is a very compact, solid form here, but there you understand it's a very subtle, very quick arising and passing away of elements, and that's also constant changing. And apart from those constantly changing elements, there is no any individual as such. There is no any person as such. There is no any being as such. So a big change has happened in our perception. So Buddha has given an interesting simile here. Buddha says, whenever a butcher killing an animal, say a cow, for him there is an animal, right? When he is killing an animal. But after that, assume that he removed the skin and cut it into pieces, and then now he is selling. Is he selling an animal? No, he is selling meat. You can see the radical change of the perception in him. So Buddha says this is in the Satipatthana Sutta. So there's a radical change in the perception of the butcher. At first there was an animal, but now what is available is mere meat. He is simply selling meat. Similarly, when we were starting practice, so we start as an individual. I am so and so, my name is this, I am at Kalalgoda, now the time is 4:30. So likewise we are fairly trapped in the conventional realities. It has a purpose, yes, but we are too much attached to it. We are too adhered to it. But as we continue, so we may recognize, okay, now I can't forget the time. I don't know what's the time. And you forget where you are, and you can't understand where you are. And you forget your name. Because your emphasis is only to the elements. Okay, you are recognized, okay, moving, lifting, again and again you are recognized the hardness, softness, roughness, movements, vibrations, heat, cold, etc., etc. Other than that, you have nothing basically. So this whole body is just a manifestation of 4 elements, and you are again and again recognizing that. It is not that you are imagining also. So don't think it as an imagination. So you have to really experience it. So therefore, Vipassana meditation is not that we are trying to logically prove it. Logically one can prove it, you also can understand, but that is not the mere Vipassana. So in the Vipassana practice, you really have to feel it. So while walking, you really feel the manifestation of the heat element, manifestation of the, say, earth element, water element, air element, etc. So all the elements you can really directly feel. That's why there are no any miracles here, there are no any kind of, magic here. Rather, you can directly experience it. That's why someone can't deny it. So you can really directly experience it. As you are walking, you can experience the manifestation of elements while standing, sitting, lying down, any other posture, wherever you can experience the manifestation of elements. And one time you might understand, okay, there is no self, there is no individual here, there is no man, there is no woman, mere elements. So likewise, the practice is kind of giving us an entirely different dimension to our experience. Very radical understanding is now growing in our mind. On such occasion, probably your mind even tell you, here also there is no self, it is empty of a self. How about the outside? Here also mere elements. How about this? This also elements, right? Even though I have given a name, it has a clock, this also consists of 4 elements, right? So likewise, now one can say all the materiality in this whole world, nothing but elements, right? While you are in that understanding, there is no self, and there is no individual, and there is no any particular object, and there is no any particular being. In the whole, I would say, we are still talking about the physical materiality. So in the material realm or materiality, form aggregate, one can wisely say, okay, there is no self, there is no individual, there is no being. One can't say the body is a self, body as an individual, and it is empty of a self. And we can also say it doesn't belong to a self either. Any kind of a material object, we can't say it's a part of a self. Sunyamidang attenava attaniyenava. So you can see, with respect to form aggregate, therefore we can safely say, now it is empty of self, also it is not part of a self. It doesn't belong to a self. So the practice has to be further enhanced to understand it to the mental aggregates, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness. So we have to further grow ourselves. But just for explanation, we can argue, okay, if we consider the form aggregate, now we can safely say there is no self. Now let's come to the Kalakarama Sutta now. Now Buddha now giving a very interesting argument here. Datta dattabbang dittang na manyati. Assume now you are looking at this. You are looking at this. Can you have mere vision, just the sight, without any kind of a conceiving? Without making it an object. You can simply see it. It also is a wrong term. Mere seeing is there. Apart from mere seeing, you are not thinking anything based upon this. Very much like what Bahya explanation, right? Ditte dittamattang. There is mere seeing, but don't conceive based on that. So don't say this is a clock now. While you are in that understanding, you can't say this is a clock. Even a label is impossible there. So what happens if you label it? That means you again objectifying. Again you objectify it. You put things together and you identify it as something. So once you recognize it as something, it says attention onto something. So conceptually, we are making things. Conceptually, we are making objects. Just to communicate, just to think. Without concepts, we can't think. That's the bottom line. So we need concepts to think. So more and more there are millions, billions of concepts, labels, and we are in obsession, not mere thinking. We have gone even to the obsessive level. But at this time, say if you are in a deep understanding, this kind of then when you see, you can't even label. Basically, your mind can't get involved while you are seeing. So you are not making an object here, you are not solidifying it here, you are not objectifying here, rather still there is a seeing. Mere seeing is there. Datta dattabbang dittanna manyati. So Buddha say, so when Buddha and the Arahants are dwelling in this understanding, so for them, even though there are various sights are available, they are not making any kind of a conceiving out of them. Now, next stage. What is here? Where is the clock? Clock is not there. Right? Clock is not there. Can you think about the not available clock? Now the clock is not available. Can you think about that? Can, right? So even the absence of the clock is a reason for us to think. You can see how stupid we are. Even when it is present also we can think. Even when it is not present also we can think. We are thinking, okay, it's a pretty beautiful clock, what has happened to it, who has stolen it. So we can think many different ways, right? So adittang na manyati. So Buddha mentioned, even when you don't see, you are not conceiving. While seeing also there is no conceiving. While not seeing also there is no conceiving. Now say, just to give an example. Assume that you have a child and you are going to collect him from your school. Once you see your child, still you can think. Right? Once you see your child, okay, today he has torn his, he went through kind of a trouble and he has torn his arm, shirt and all blah blah blah, and you can blame him and you can think about him and you can complain him and a lot of thinking. Assume that you are waiting, all the other kids have gone, your son is not there. Are you still thinking? Still thinking. So not seeing also a reason for thinking. Right? Not only seeing, even not seeing also a reason for thinking. So you can make an individual without that person there. Even not absence is a reason for thinking. So here Buddha mentioned adittang na manyati. When you can't even see, don't conceive now. There is no any kind of a thinking, there is no any kind of a conceptual proliferation. Another thing, dattabbang na manyati. I should see, it's a very important thing to see. By attributing some importance, some value, still you can think. And the last one is the interesting one. Who is the one seeing? Me, right? I am the one seeing. So there is a subject. That here is the object. I am the one seeing it. So I am making a self here and then I can think. Okay, this belongs to me. I am the owner of it and I can imagine so much of things. So out of this I have a relationship. So I am making an individual here, a self here, an observer here, and that is a cause for thinking. So dattarang na manyati emphasize you are not thinking based on an experiencer, based on a seer, based on an observer. That's the most difficult part. So one can argue and say, logically one can say, okay, this is empty, this is a mere term, this is a mere label, there is no really a clock. And someone else can say, who is the one then knowing about? Who is the knower then? Knower should be a self. Right? Certain religions are emphasizing like that. So there should be a knower. Knower should be the self. Knower should be the Atma. But Buddha categorically say here, dattarang na manyati. There is no seer. There is no observer. And that is also empty. So Kalakarama Sutta is the really interesting sutta where Buddha is taking the understanding of emptiness to that level. Even in the Bahya Sutta, Buddha mentioned, but in a very short way, but here he analyzes it. He is taking to the 4 stages. Dattabbang, dittang na manyati, taking to this level, the object level. And adittang na manyati, not seeing level. Then dattabbang level, that means you attribute importance to something and then you start thinking. That also considered here in the Kalakarama Sutta. And lastly, the observer level, experiencer level, seer level also considered, and you say that's also empty and you are not conceiving out, making a self for the observer, attributing a self to the observer. You can see how deep it is, right? So here I have taken the example of this seeing aspect, and Buddha is taking it to the hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and even the thinking. So if I just explain the thoughts, the thinking part, so out of thoughts you can say I am thinking, thoughts belong to me. So at this level, you are merely recognizing thoughts maybe, but you are not making any very solid thing there, but thoughts are merely coming and going, that's it. You are not conceiving, you are not bothered, you are not involved. Even there are no thoughts, still no problem. It's not a reason for you to think. It's not a reason for you to panic. You're not going crazy by not having thoughts. Because sometimes people have that question, okay, Bhante, what's going on? There are no thoughts. I feel like puzzled. No thoughts. So no thoughts, not having thoughts is not a reason for panic. I mean, just enjoy that. Not think in mind. And then viññātabbang na maññati. So you are not emphasizing there is something to be known and then start thinking. Even that is not necessary. And the interesting last part is viññātārang na maññati. There is no knower either. Who is the one knowing the thoughts? Who is the one knowing the thoughts? There is no one there, right? No being there, no self there. It's a mere understanding is there. We can simply say the conscious awareness is there. Apart from conscious awareness, there is no person belong to it, no self belong to it. So very profound, interesting teaching that Buddha is emphasizing in this emptiness part of the Kalakarama Sutta. So still I am talking about the past information. Couldn't come to today's Dhamma sermon. So you can see the depth of the teaching here, what Buddha is talking in this Kalakarama Sutta. Now, in order to further understand the emptiness, actually we have to introduce the another interesting teaching of the Buddha, that is the Patissamuppada, the dependent origination. Before taking you to the Patissamuppada, I thought of giving interesting area of another sutta explaining about Patissamuppada. So this is available in the Sotapatti Sangyutta. It's called Panchavera Bhaya Sutta. So there Buddha mentioned Yatoko Gahapati Arya Savakas Pancha Bhayani Verani Vipasamtani Honti Chatuhicha Sotapatti Angehi Samannagato Hoti Aryo Chasa Nyayo Panyaya Suditto Hoti Suppati Viddu. So there Buddha mentioned, I think this mention to Gahapati here means Anathapindika. He says, Pancha Bhayani Verani Vupasantani Honti. 5 fearful animosities have subsided in the noble disciple. 5 fearful animosities are abandoned in a noble disciple. Can anyone imagine what are these 5 fearful animosities which is completely abandoned in a noble disciple, a Sotapanna? These are 5 precepts basically. Now, his argument is, assume that someone is killing individuals, people and animal and all that. So as a result of that crime, that activity, there is a kind of fear rising in his mind. Say you killed a person, of course. Then probably his children or colleagues or whoever, the police or someone coming and catching you and punishing you. Again, they are killing you and all that. So that killing invariably introduce a kind of a fear in the mind of the person who involved in that activity. Similarly, Buddha mentioned stealing, sexual misconduct, lying and taking the intoxicants. So even though at that moment we ignorantly conduct it, slowly it can introduce kind of a fear in oneself. So the one interesting aspect of a Sotapanna emphasized in this sutta, so since he is not breaking these 5 precepts intentionally, so he is not experiencing these fears. So his mind is fairly free from fear coming out of the killing, free from the fear coming out of stealing, sexual misconduct, lying and taking the intoxicants. So therefore, 5 precepts are given a fair emphasis here. Buddha argue here in this Panchavera Bhaya Sutta, these 5 fearful animosities are completely abandoned in that particular person. Then, Chatuhicha Sotapatti Angehi Samannagato Hoti. Now, when it comes to Sotapanna, the stream entry, so there are 2 levels actually we can say. So one level is that there are 4 factors which are contributing to become a Sotapanna. So what are they? That's also called Sotapatti Anga. Sotapatti Angang, Sotapatti Anganti Sariputta Uchati. Katamannuko Sariputta Sotapatti Anganti. So this question being asked from Venerable Sariputta, Bhante, it is mentioned as Sotapatti Anga, Sotapatti Anga. What are these Sotapatti Anga? So what are the factors to attain stream entry? And then Venerable Sariputta answers, Sappurisa Sansevo hi Bhante, Sotapatti Angang, Saddhamma Savanang, Sotapatti Angang, Yoniso Manasikaro, Sotapatti Angang, Dhammanudhamma Patipatti, Sotapatti Angang. Hope you heard about these things, right? That means Sappurisa Sansevo. So you are associating the wise people, nobles particularly. And then Saddhamma Savanang. So you listen to the Buddha's teaching. Yoniso Manasikaro. So you are more into the wise reflection. And then Dhammanudhamma Patipatti. So you are practicing in accordance with the Dhamma. So these are the 4 essential components to attain Sotapatti. And here in this Panchavera Bhaya Sutta, what is mentioned is not that exactly. It is when one attains Sotapanna, when one becomes a stream winner, what are the 4 factors he is possessing? That is also called Sotapatti Anga. What are they? The factors of stream entry. So the factors actually what he possesses after he being a Sotapanna. So that is actually related. First 3 are related to Buddha Dhamma Sangha. So now he has unwavering confidence on the Buddha. Buddhe avecchappasade samannagato. Now he has no any doubt about the Buddha, and Buddha's enlightenment is quite sure to him. So he accepts Buddha as the teacher, and there is no any need of looking for another teacher, and he's quite affirm, okay, Buddha is the teacher. And about the Dhamma, he's quite sure about the Dhamma because he has practiced the Dhamma, and using the Dhamma he already now have a thorough understanding about it. So he is quite sure about the Dhamma, there is no any doubt about it. And he is quite sure about the Sangha, who is practicing according to the Dhamma and who has already practiced according to the Dhamma, who has attained as a result of that practice, and so that lineage, that the noble disciples, he has no doubt. Because he himself is part of it. He himself is an example of that noble Sangha now. So he understood, okay, Buddha is the teacher, Dhamma is so well explained, and whoever has followed that definitely has attained. I myself has attained that, like that. So he has his own evidence, he being a Sotapanna. So therefore, Buddha Dhamma Sangha, regarding Buddha Dhamma Sangha, there is no doubt in him. He is quite sure about it. The 4th one is related to the Sila, where Ariyakantehi Silehi Samannagato Hoiti, Akandehi, Achiddehi, Asabalehi, Akammasehi, Bujissehi, Vinyupasattehi, Aparamattehi, Samadhi Sangvattinikehi. So he has no doubt about the Sila, and he is maintaining the Sila, and also he has a clear kind of understanding, okay, this Sila is quite well explained, and it is well established, and there is no any kind of blemish here, and it is actually causing to release, the freeing, and it is praised by the wise, and also it is not grasped, and it is leading to concentration. So in order to maintain a clarity of the mind, sila is one contributing significantly for the clarity of the mind. So he has no doubt about the sila. So these are the 4 factors. So when one becomes a Sotapanna, it is mentioned that he possesses. Now, this sutta mention Panchabhayani Verani Upasampani Honti. So we discussed, right? What belongs to that 5 precepts. So those are now not available to him. No animosities, no fears, because he is maintaining the sila. Chatuhicha Sotapatyange he samannagato. So he is a Sotapanna. Now he is basically has unwavering confidence on the Buddha Dhamma Sangha and the sila. And then the last statement is the one actually connecting with the subject. Ariyo chassa nyayo panyaya suditto hoti suppati viddo. Ariyo chassa nyayo panyaya suditto hoti suppati viddo. He has clearly seen the noble method and he has penetrated that. What is that? He has clearly seen the noble method and he has penetrated that. So what is that noble method? Ariyo chassa nyayo. That is the dependent origination. Parisamuppada. So Parisamuppada has given such a prominence here. So you can see when one becomes a Sotapanna, so he has some understanding about the Parisamuppada, that particular law, and he has penetrated that, he has touched that, he has some understanding in that. So we'll discuss that tomorrow, and I just want to enter to that, and using which actually we can further get into the emptiness. And with that note, I'll conclude today's Dhamma sermon. Thank you very much for attentive listening. Okay, I invite Venerable Dhammalanka. Okay, there's a little note here. So today there's a short sharing of merits. Today lunch dana was offered by Anoma Disanayaka. Merits of the dana to be passed on to her late brother Ananda Di Silva and to Gayatri Mohanan, who passed away in Sydney, Australia. May their sansaric journey be good and short and attain Nibbana in near future. So this is a short sharing of merits passed to me, and I invite Venerable Dhammalanka to conduct the sharing of merits formally.